Hey, it's Callum Bose here. Today I'm going to discuss how I use user roles in Knack and why I never add fields and connections to child user roles. So in case you don't know, in Knack you've got a parent user role called accounts, and then these children user roles which define specific groups of users that you can limit permissions to. And I always add fields only to the parent account and connections in and out only to the parent account as well. I'm going to kind of demonstrate why that is in this video. So to demonstrate this, I'm going to make an example app, and I'm going to build it in the way that I don't usually do and show you the problems. And then I'm going to refactor it to show you how we can solve it with the pattern that I recommend. Okay, so let's say we're wanting to build an app, and it's an app for managing projects for a business. And we've decided there's a couple of different types of users. There's staff, who can view and edit projects that they are managing and also add new projects for themselves, so the projects that they're the manager for. Then we have a higher level user called managers. They can view and edit their own projects, but also other people's projects. We want to make a staff dashboard where staff can manage their own projects. We also want to make a different manager dashboard that only managers can access, but we still want to give them the default views to manage their own projects easily without having to filter or anything, because that's mostly what they're going to do. But if they want to, they also need to be able to view and edit all projects. So on their page, we want to give them a view of their own projects and a way to easily add their own project without having to choose themselves from a list of names. But we also want to let them see all and add a project to anyone. So we need kind of a bit of extra functionality on their page. Then finally, we want a page that all users can access where they can see some high-level reporting about projects. We want all users to be able to see reporting on just their own projects on that page, as well as all projects. So let's launch in and see what I've set up so far and then build out some of the pages together. So I have my Knack app set up. I have user roles enabled, and I've already added 2 sub-user roles, which is staff and managers. So you can see Knack has added the standard 5 fields to all of these. And also I have added a job title to the staff. And that's where we're going to store like what the job title of each person working here is. We also have a table of projects. Each project has a name and a description. And also we have a connection directly to the staff child user role, defining who the project manager is. So I have some example users in here. I have 2 users, Callum, who's a staff member only, and Peter, who is both a staff member and a manager. And so those you can see in the parent account. And if you click through to the child user roles, you can see they share those same data for these 5 fields as the parent. And you can see there's both users appear in the staff and only Peter appears as a manager. Last thing I'm going to do is add a job title for Peter, who is our CEO. So the first problem with adding fields to the child user role, for example, this job title field added directly to the child user role staff, is that it's easy to lose data. So if I were to accidentally remove the user role of staff from Peter, what I'm going to see is if I go to the staff table, Peter's record is gone, but I've also lost his job title. So imagine if I had 20 fields there and I accidentally just changed his user role, I would have just lost all Peter's data. Now, if I add him back, I just realize whoops, I shouldn't have taken him off staff, and I go see Peter, that data hasn't come back. So the first problem is that it's way too easy to lose data from a child user role when you change the user role and you have fields added to the child user role. And there's no prompting or anything. So you have to kind of bend over backwards to design your app to prevent that, which can be really tricky and still risky. So that's the first problem. The second problem with that setup is what I'm going to demonstrate as we try and build out the pages of our example app. So let's build out the staff dashboard first. So staff need to be able to view their own projects, edit them, and add new projects that they are assigned to as a project manager. So I'm going to go to pages and I'm going to make a new login page. And that login page is going to only allow staff to access. I'm going to call this the staff dashboard. Okay, so I'm going to add a grid of projects. And you can see I can choose all projects or only projects connected to the logged in staff. So I'm going to choose that one. I'm also going to automatically add the ability to edit each record with a form. And I'm going to call this my projects. Okay, so now I want to be able to add a new project. So I'm going to add a form that adds a new project. And I'm going to go a new project connected to the logged in staff. Add project for me. And finally, I'm going to delete the drop down of staff because we're automatically setting that with the data source because it's already adding a project connected to the logged in staff. Okay, so let's go have a look at that in the front end. Now I have already some projects in here. I've got one project belonging to Callum and 3 belonging to Peter. So I am logged in as Peter and I can see 3 projects. I can add a 4th project for Peter. If I log in as Callum, I can see 1 project. I can add a 2nd for Callum. And you can see if we look at the raw data of that's working as expected. So yes, we've been able to address all of these requirements with no problems. Now things get a bit more interesting when we start trying to build this manager dashboard. So if you remember, we want the same functionality as what we've just done on the staff, where you can view and edit and add your own projects, but also ability to view and edit and add other projects for other people. So let's do the easy part first, which is viewing, editing, and adding projects for other people. So I'm going to make a login page only for managers. We're going to call this the manager dashboard. And I'm going to add a grid of projects, and I'm not actually getting any options here, which means this grid is a grid of all projects. So that's no worries. But what if I want to do a grid of only my projects? Well, I can't. And I don't have any options in the data source filters as well that lets me specify that I should only show project manager is the logged in user. So I don't get any options that let me meet that requirement. Now I've got a similar problem when I add a form. I want to add a new project for anyone, that's no worries. And I just have to select the staff. But if I want to add a new project connected to me and I don't have to select myself from the drop down, I just don't get the option. All I can do is add a new project and select. Now the reason for that is this page is limited to managers and it doesn't know about data in its sibling. So the sibling of managers is staff, and Knack just isn't recognizing that, even though Peter kind of shares a record between managers and staff and accounts, the only fields that are shared are those standard 5 fields, and Knack isn't recognizing or knowing about the fact that, we're dealing with that effectively the same record, but this extra data we've added either as a job title or the connection to a staff member just isn't being recognized by the page, so we can't access it. We're going to find a similar problem if we add a job title back to Peter, and let's say we wanted to display that on the page, the manager dashboard. So we might add a details view about wanting to add details about the logged in staff, which is where the field is. but we can only access the manager or the parent account. We don't know anything about its sibling kind of record. So one of the difficulties in creating pages when you add fields to the user role is sibling roles can't access each other's data, which is what we've just seen there. We weren't able to fulfill the requirements for some of this manager dashboard. We weren't able to view and edit own projects, and we weren't able to add a new project just for yourself. Now let's try and build out this all users reporting page. We need to view a report on just your own projects and view a report on all projects. So let's add one more page, and we're going to call it, we're actually going to give permission to all users rather than limiting it to specific user roles. Let's call this all users dashboard. Okay, so let's say we wanted to add a pivot table that counts the number of projects or something like that. So we can say projects, and notice how we didn't get that option to choose anything but all projects. So we can't do projects connected to the logged in user. We can only do all projects. And the reason for that is kind of like the sibling problem that we just talked about. In this case, the parent role can't access the child's data in pages. So this page, since it's not limited to a particular user role, really deals with the account. So the account, when you have a page about one account, or limited to just the account, it doesn't recognize any data from its children. So we can't say projects connected to the logged in staff because Knack isn't recognizing that there might be a staff member that's kind of the same as the logged in account. So even though I might be logged in as Callum, who has the role of staff and therefore has data about what projects they're connected to, this page isn't letting me see that. And if I wanted to say show the job title of the logged in staff member, well, I can't do that. I can only say the logged in account has the details as well, because once again, the parent isn't recognizing data from its children. So yeah, in summary, the problems that we've encountered there is that changing user roles can easily lead to data loss if you've added fields and connections to child user roles. And also we have less flexibility, well, we have problems creating pages. We weren't able to fulfill all the requirements that we wanted to because of some limitations of Knack. So now we're going to refactor this into the way that I normally do it, where I add all fields and all connections directly to the parent account. And let's see how we go with that. Okay, so we're going to refactor this app now. Okay, so we're going to get rid of a bunch of stuff. We're going to get rid of job title out of the staff, and we're going to add that into the account instead. We're also going to change our connection from project to indicate who the project manager is. We're going to delete this one, and instead we're going to add a connection to the account rather than the staff. Now we're going to call this project manager still. All right. Now a bunch of our pages will be broken, so I'm going to pause and just delete everything, and then we'll try adding the functionality that we need again. Okay, I've got a clean slate here again now. So I'm going to add my staff dashboard. And staff should be able to see, edit, and add their own projects. So projects connected to the logged in account. So even though this page deals with one staff member, we can still know the child user role knows about its parent data, even though the parent user role doesn't know about its child data. So we have that flexibility here now still. Okay, so we can show my own projects and edit them. And let's add a form to add a new project connected to the logged in account. So now we have the same functionality that we had, where you can view your own projects, edit them, and add your own projects as well. Now that's all fine. We had that already working. So let's go back to the manager dashboard. We need to be able to view and edit your own projects, add your own projects, but also view and edit all and add all projects. So let's try that. Okay, so managers only. All right. So we can do projects connected to the logged in account, which we didn't have before. And we'll call that my projects. And just to be clear on the screen, we'll call this my projects as well. So that's new. We're now able to address one of those things that we couldn't before. Now we're going to add a form to add a new project. And once again, this is new, a project connected to the logged in account. So add project for me. And they don't need the drop down. And we can, just for clarity, add a title to that as well. All right, now can we still view a list of all projects? Yes, we can. So we'll call this all projects. And can we also add a new project to anyone? Well, yes, we can. Add project to anyone. And that's that. So we've actually been able to resolve that item. And we've been able to resolve that item. We can make a manager dashboard where they can view their own or anyone's, add their own or anyone's projects all on one page. We have a much better flexibility with this method of adding connection directly to the account rather to the child user roles. Now let's have a quick look at this all users page where we couldn't show a report on only our own projects. So we'll go all users dashboard, which is for any logged in user. And let's see what we can do. We can show a pivot table of all projects, which is the same as it was before. And we can show a pivot table of projects connected to the logged in account, which is my projects. And for clarity, we'll name this. So once again, we've been able to address what we couldn't fix in the previous version by connecting everything directly to the account. So that's difficulty creating pages address. Now what about data loss? All right, so let's go back to our accounts. Here we can see, we might want to say that Peter is our CEO. Now if I was to change his roles, including getting rid of all of them, there's no data lost because there's no additional data stored in any of these child roles. And I can freely change his user roles without affecting the data because all the data is stored in this parent account table rather than the child user roles. So that addresses this leading to data loss. So let's go have a look at the live app again and make sure it still all works. Okay, so I have, I'm logged in as Peter and I can see Peter's project. I can add a second project to Peter. That's good. If I log in and look at the staff dashboard as Callum, then I'll see my own projects as well. Now I can't access the manager dashboard as a staff member, but I can log in into the all users dashboard and see a report of all projects and a report just of my projects. Now let's look at Peter one more time and look at the manager dashboard. So once again, Peter can see his own projects as well as all of them. And on the manager dashboard, he can add a project just for himself, but he can also add a project for anyone. So in summary, we've been able, by refactoring the app so that any connections going to or from objects go directly to the parent account, and also any fields that we want to add on top of the standard 5 that Knack adds for us, added to the account. That means we get greater flexibility in the way we build our pages, and we also avoid the problem of potential data loss. So that's why I always add fields and connections to the account and never add them to the child user roles. If you found this video helpful, like and subscribe to my YouTube channel, and also follow me on LinkedIn. I post about once a week with my tips and tricks for Knack.